All right, folks, this is Xearrik, and this is a response video to Facepalm trying to convince me that Badou isn't bad. To give a little context, this is specifically related to her countering and how I do not like countering in horde-based games. I don't know how you're supposed to convince me that countering in horde-based games is fun when fun is a subjective term, but okay. Here's the thing, I love countering in games. Like, one of my favorite ways to play Dark Souls is to counter, because it's a high risk, high reward, difficult mechanic that is extremely rewarding. I enjoy it. I enjoy countering in almost every game that has countering in it, except horde-based games. I hate it in horde-based games. Now, there could be an exception with a few games like that, such as horde-based games with bosses like Hyrule Warriors. I haven't played through Hyrule Warriors. I played the demo, and the countering in that seemed kind of interesting because it wasn't about countering all the random hordes around you. It was about when you got to that one-on-one fight. But I haven't played every horde-based game. So, yes, I can't objectively say for certain that all horde-based games have bad countering. But this is what happens when you take a clip from like a 4 to 5 hour stream and try to, where I'm obviously being hyperbolic, and then try to make like a 20-minute response video about it, being very analytical. It's not really productive, actually. I mean, you know, there you go. You did it. Yeah, you said you were going to do that at some point. You did it. But you didn't convince me of anything. I already knew everything you said, except for you trying to claim that the enemy AI is consistent, because it most certainly isn't. It's consistent in small bubbles, sometimes, but sometimes the AI also breaks, which means the AI is inconsistent. I don't own the game anymore, as you well know, because I gifted you the game. I don't own the game, so I'm not going to go trying to cherry pick examples and trying to find examples of the AI breaking. I instead went to the internet, did a little searching, and it took me only a couple of minutes to find an example of the AI completely breaking.
Are they going to attack me? Are they going to attack me or no? That's the issue.
This goes
like,
on for several minutes.
They don't attack. Beidou's.
And it was already going on for several minutes before then. It was already going on for several minutes before. It's a good solid 3 or 4 or 5 minutes or something like that of the AI. This is fast forward, by the way. This isn't fast forward.
It's like probably a third of the damage she could be. Attack!
Why are they not attacking?
Like,
You said, oh, it's just cooldown based. Yeah, I know what cooldowns are, man. I know how enemy AI works in most games. I've been playing games for over 30 years. I know how video games work. I don't have to create a video game to know how they work. Just like I don't have to throw a football to know what a bad football pass is. That's a bad argument. I can observe bad AI. This is what you call bad AI.
I'm using this in a video. Because if this was Razor, and I just had free, unimpact, like they're not even attacking me. And there's so many times that the AI does this. There's so many times the AI does it, it just like sits there. It's like, okay. I know that they're getting taunted by the things.
Admittedly, he is using her in a non-optimum way. The optimum way to use Badou is to focus purely on her ult. And remember, the context of that big long stream, in that one section of that big long stream that I was talking about, was that her counter is the problem I have with her. Yeah, you can build a team around her where you focus on feeding her as much energy as possible, and then you spam her ult, and that's where she becomes a viable character. If you build an entire team about giving as much energy to all your characters as possible so that you can rotate ult spam. I'm talking about her counter. That's why she's trash. I don't care what you think of the character. You can say the character's good or bad. It doesn't really matter to me. Because at the end of the day, I played with her, and her damage wasn't as high as the other characters that I owned and I was able to play with and have fun with. Like characters like my C6 fish sticks. I put that bird out, and that's all I gotta do. It's out, it's doing damage the whole time. Like, why would I use her instead of Waterboy? Waterboy, I put Waterboy, I pop his ult, which his ult is spamming all those things. I pop his normal things. Like, his stuff is really good. You know, I had a sacrificial greatsword. Not greatsword, but the sacrificial, whatever the little sword was. The one that refreshed your E, so you could keep doing your E over and over again. Like, I had that on my Waterboy. And so, like, I'd spam that out. I'd have all those freaking water swords just spamming, and the freaking hawk spamming, and all these are whatever the hell it's called. I don't remember. I haven't played the game in months, because I haven't played the game since before Inazuma, whatever. Japanese Land came out. I haven't played the game since before Japanese Land came out, because I hate the game's gameplay loop. The gameplay loop of that game is get more characters so that's easier to farm to get more characters. And it's just so supremely unfun, the video game. So I would pick characters that would make it so that I could get through the game as fast as possible, because that's what it ended up being. When I was playing earlier on, I would play characters like Badou, because, you know, it didn't matter that she wasn't optimum, because I was just having fun playing the game. But after a few months of playing that game, I wasn't having any fun. I was clocking in to go to work. That's what it felt like to me. So characters like Badou felt like trash. Now let me explain to you what terms like trash, garbage, and bad mean. You ready for this? This is a good movie, and they should make many more movies like it. Watch this. This is a bad movie, and they should never make another movie like this. Both of those statements are true. You don't understand objectivity, that's not my problem, all right? That's how it works. There's no way that you're going to be able to convince someone who thinks that this movie is good or thinks this movie is bad is the opposite of what they think, because it's their personal experience with that thing. If you give them new information that they didn't know, or you're able to change their perspective based on, or change the way they look at it, so they judge it by a different perspective, then you can change their opinion on it. For instance, you're not changing my opinion on Badou, because I was specifically talking about her counter, but let's pretend like I didn't understand how her ult worked, and that you could actually use her ult in conjunction with other characters to do a lot of damage. And then you told me about that. Then I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. I guess she's good in some context. But I already know that. And I was specifically speaking about the countering mechanic, because I hate countering in horde-based games. Never played one where I enjoyed it. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I won't. Because I've played a lot of horde-based games, and a few of them have had countering, and they've been universally bad. Because one thing that has been universally bad in every horde-based game I've ever played is the AI. Because on an individual scale, all of the enemies are dumb in horde-based games. It's just the limitations of programming is my guess. I would think it would be pretty difficult on the CPU to have all the enemies acting in a very different manner to where it felt more organic, but it doesn't. In horde-based games, most of the enemies just stand around doing nothing. It's the AI is not the thing that I enjoy when it comes to horde-based games. I don't think anyone plays horde-based games because of really good enemy AI. No, they play it because, you know, you're attacking a bunch of things all at once and crazy stuff is happening all over the screen. And in Genshin Impact, it's sort of a light horde based game. It's not fully horde, but it's sort of a light one. And unfortunately, even when there's one enemy, sometimes that one enemy's AI is as bad as the AI of a horde based game. That's why I speak about it as Genshin as a horde based game when it comes to the AI, because the AI is so abysmal.
Mona?
Several minutes
But my damage is a fraction of what it could be.
of them not attacking him
If we just replace Beidou with Razor right now,
one
it'd be done.
time.
But she can be a good support. Like, don't get me wrong, she can be a great support, but her main.
And remember, it's not just because he's CCing him, because there's several times where if I play it at normal speed.
That's the issue, is like, if they don't attack, Beidou's shit.
Look,
in a situation
this one backs off and starts doing nothing because this one's engaged.
like this,
But this one that's engaged gets knocked prone.
Beidou's like probably a third of the damage she could.
And this one gets up and starts doing nothing, and then it gets knocked down again. And then this one over here starts approaching as if it's going to engage, but just kind of stands around looking. And then it pumps up like it's about to attack. And then it changes its mind and backs away doing nothing. This one has been standing up for quite a long time now, doing nothing.
Like, do something!
That's why I don't like countering in horde-based games. Horde-based games are about just pressing the button a whole bunch of times and doing like combos on rotation and things like that. All right, I think this is where I should end it probably with this image here. I think it's the perfect example of why your video didn't do anything to convince me of anything, because terms like bad, trash, and garbage are subjective, and you're not going to be able to change someone's opinion on something like that unless you introduce information to them that they didn't already know. And I already knew everything you were talking about in that video. The only thing your video is going to accomplish is convincing people who already think she's bad, nothing. People who think she's good, and neutral parties you might convince them that she's good. Neutral parties who didn't already have an opinion, but people who already have an opinion on her quality aren't going to be convinced by that, because all the things you talked about, everyone already knows. I mean, you did convince some of your subscribers that I'm bad at countering and I don't know how Genshin Impact works, which is like a gross misrepresentation of what I was talking about during the stream. But, I mean, that's the way it works. I've streamed for thousands and thousands of hours. I've probably said thousands of incredibly dumb, wrong things that you could pick apart and make a really long video about. But this isn't one of them, Captain. This isn't one of them. In fact, I think I should rename Badou Badou't. I mean, I call her Badou because she's bad, but I don't think I should have do at the end of it, because, I mean, what does she do other than suck? I don't know. Badou't. Yeah. I don't like Badou't. I don't play as Badou't. And I'm not going to simp for Badou't just because she's jiggly and thick, all right? She's on my... You have my Genshin Impact account. You saw she was on Team Thick, okay? She has her place. But her place is not on team, I want to do a whole bunch of damage and end this fight as fast as possible because I don't want to play this game right now. I didn't have a team built around her with that, because I did try it a few times. Especially when you could generate that extra bird back in the day. But it doesn't, none of that really matters. Specifically, I was talking about her counter. All you did was reinforce my opinion. Now I'm doubling down. She's Badou't. Deal with it. I will not simp for that woman. Badou is a bad character. The end. Watch Street Fighter the movie. It's a good movie. Also, don't watch Street Fighter the movie. It's a bad movie. But no, watch that movie.